skeletons speak with such a screech. You'll shake and shudder in surprise when you hear these zombies shriek. Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul and seal your doom tonight. Spooky, scary skeletons.
Hey guys, I'm Josh, welcome back to the video. So I am going to be teaching you how to do inverse functions, which is grade 7 at GCSE, which is only available, you only do it if you're in higher tier math. So an inverse function is where you take an output to find an input. So it's basically the reverse of a function. So if you haven't watched it yet, go and watch it in the next one. Now go and watch it before you watch this one. It's going to be a little card thingy in the corner of that thing. Yeah, it's going to be there. Right, so just a bit of a recap from the last one. So we're going to do function of x is equal to 2x add 1. Okay, so I'm going to do function of 3 with 2 times by 3 add 1. So that is 7. Just put the 3 into there. Then you do function of 5, which would be 2 times by 5, add 1, is equal to 11. So that's just a bit of a recap, and there's also another few questions I need to have a go at before I go through it. So I'll set up quickly. Function of x is equal to 2x add 3. And function of g, function of x, is equal to 3x add x squared minus 4. So first question is, so have a go at this one, which is the function of g4. I don't know what I mean, so it's like g of 4, then do that up there, if that makes sense. I did a horrible job of explaining this one. So the answer to this one is you do g of 4. Then you do 3 times by 4. Then you add 4 squared. Then you minus 4. So this one, so that would give you 12 add 16 minus 4. Let's give you 28 minus 4, which is 24. Is the answer to that part. And over here, I'm gonna. So function of 24 is equal to 24 times by 2 and 3. This is what I separate this. So that gives you 48 and 3, which is 51. So that should be your answer. That's just a bit of a recap of what we done the last one, the last lesson. Right, so moving on to actual practice questions. So inverse functions are a bit like this. So it is f to the power of minus 1 function of x, and this is an example with 3x add 2. So all the inverse basically is, it's pretty much the exact same as functions, but you do it backwards. So let's just do the arrow thing. So you start off with x. So what happens to x first? It's the times by 3. And then you add 2 to it. And then, that gives you 3x, add 2. And then then basically just write it backwards, if that makes sense. So how do you get from 3x add 2 back to x? Well, you'd minus the 2, then divide by the 3. That makes sense? So that, well, yeah, that's pretty much it for that one. So that's just the basics of it. Using natural numbers, so it's f power minus 1 x, which is then equal to 4x add 3 minus 5. That asks me what the point. This is like just a minus 2 to summarise it all, but that's besides the point. So let's say I substitute 8 in. So I'm going to do the arrows of what's going to happen to it. So you're going to times it by 4, which will give you 32. Then you add the 3. Give you 35, and you minus the 5, which will get you 30. So that's your final answer there. Well, yeah, that's pretty much that for that section. And you may also find it where it's a bit more complicated, where it could be f of x equal to 2 minus 7x divided by 5. And the question might come up with this in the exam, but it might say something like, what is the inverse function of the following? And this would be the following. So you basically have to try and make the inverse of it make sense. So the easiest way I find to do this, if you do y, to replace this section becomes a y. That makes sense. Let's try again. So that section becomes a y. Then you just write it out and you just solve for x. So the first thing you do here is times it by 5, so I'm going to move it over here. So 5y is equal to 2 minus 7x. Next thing you do is minus 2. So 5y minus 2 is equal to minus 7x. Divided by 7 would give you 5y minus 2 over 7 is equal to minus x. And just times it by minus 1. No. What you do is divide by minus 7, which will give you 5y minus 2 over minus 7, which would then give you x. So that I find that's the easiest way to do it. Another way of doing it is okay, so what happened last time, what you should do when you get that answer is f minus 1 of x. So you just write it like that, then instead of doing the 5y minus 2 over minus 7, you'd replace the y for the x, if that makes sense. So it just would be 5x minus 2 divided by minus 7 would be how you would get that, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. So another way of doing it is the way we did it previously, is to say the number, say x is 6. So what happens to that 6 first? Gets times by minus 7. And then you add the 2 and divide by 5, which would get you, so to minus 7 is minus 42, add 2 is minus 40, minus 8. And then the other way of doing the inverse thing, you've probably forgotten the inverse functions, is you got to get from minus 8 back to 6. So you times it by 5, you minus the 2, then you divide by minus 7, and that'll give you the same answer as what was there before. If that makes sense? So if we rewrite it, so f to the power minus 1 x is equal to 5x minus 2 over minus 7. It's the exact same as what was the other method, if that makes sense. So it's the same as that. Because that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson we will be doing Pythagoras theorem in 2D shapes. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you really liked it, please subscribe. And if you feel that it helped you, or think it will help others, please share it with your family or family and friends. Goodbye.